Boom, baby. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Interview with the Man, episode 102. We're going to be talking about Insta Gods with my man, Sonny, who is joining us here, who is the owner of strengthbysonny.com. Sonny's got a lot of great inside info. And we've been pals for a very long time. I think like 4 years now, Sonny, is it? We've been digital pals.
What is it? It's 2019. Yeah, about 3-4 years. Yeah.
Yep. If you guys follow my SoundCloud, I did an interview with Sonny as well back in the day. Sonny's a real one, and this guy is in peak physical shape. I mean, you are a fucking fitness expert, dude. Seriously, it is a guy like me. I'm more of a womanizing expert, and I'm really good talker. But I mean, you are just your Instagram, your fitness advice, everything, your discipline. It is fucking truly admirable. And I'm not just saying that to kiss your ass. I truly admire fucking guys like you who can actually do what you do, man. So we're gonna be interviewing Sonny today and his book, Insta Gods, which just came out. And that book is a tank. Do you have a copy of that book with you? Can you show it to the folks?
I do. Yeah. It's right here in paperback. Yeah, it's not a pretty big book. It is a big book. This is like, one of my proudest accomplishments right here. This, starting it and thinking it, and then, working on it, starting it, and then finally being able to write it and then hold it in my hands. I made an Instagram post the other day saying that, my mind when it comes to these books, the job's done when I can hold a copy in my hand. So now, I'm happy to say that the job's done in my mind. But yeah,
it's beautiful. Let's do this, okay? So let me just give the folks a little bit of knowledge about who you are. So why don't you tell us about your journey as kind of like kind of getting into the masculine self-help whole industry, and I want to talk about how if you're comfortable, I believe you worked with RSD for a little bit as well, right?
Not officially. Just to kind of explain how I found myself on this side of the internet.
Okay.
That flashback to around 7 years ago. I was just about graduating. It was right around the time I was graduating college, and very much just confused in life as far as like where I was going, like what's the next step, where I was going professionally. And
right, you were 23 at that time because you're 30 now, right?
I was 22 going on 23 because I'm 29 going on 30 right now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I found it was RSD Tyler's video, "The Truth About Success" too. I thought it was a great video. And that kind of wrapped me in. And then I just saw what they were about. And I was just like, they talk to chicks and everything. It's pretty cool. I did that all throughout college. And, it kind of.
Sonny, hold the mic a little bit closer to your mouth if you can. It's kind of, if you can move it a little bit closer.
How's this?
Perfect.
Okay. Like I said, it was definitely a transition period for me. Graduating college and not having any sort of direction professionally and just even geographically where I was going.
What did you graduate with?
I had a double bachelor's in political science and history.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because again, I was thinking about going to law school, applied to law schools, and I got into some good ones because I did go to the LSATs, but more I thought about it, just like, do I want to go to school for another 3 years? And it was within that period where I was thinking everything over. I happened to stumble on that, and then kind of got on this side of the internet. And back then, it seemed pretty cool because it seemed like a positive community where guys were sort of helping each other out, and it was community in my opinion, and that was something that I regretted about. Not necessarily regret it. I had that in college, but it was coming to an end. And a part of that did, it did scare me a little because it's like, shit, like I have this security of like all my friends here in college and now we're all going our own separate ways. And
Right.
You know,
Were you
so
in a
that's
fraternity?
wasn't in a fraternity, no.
Okay.
But yeah, so found RSD, and then you know, kind of met some people on that side of the internet. Eventually, as far as my affiliation with them, I ended up I assisted on one program for them. That was it, and then eventually, uh, you know, that was so this is like fall 2012. Fast forward to well, what ended up happening, I went back to school for a 1 year program in a business school. I finished that, and same thing. Still, struggling to find a job outside of school. I ended up going back home with my parents for 6 months, which totally sucked. And eventually, I got to a point where I was able to secure my first job outside of after school. And it was around this time. It was like December of 2013. I started thinking about the idea for Strength by Sonny, because also you got to keep. I also saw other sites, for like inspiration. The big one, I was reading what's it called, Bold and Determined back in the day, and I saw that and I was like, you know what, I have some advice, especially when it comes to like mindset, girls, and especially fitness. I bet I can help a lot of guys out, and then eventually pull the trigger. Started Strength by Sonny end of January 2014, and been rolling with it ever since. That site, it's not a mega big self-improvement site, but there's a lot of good content on there.
For sure, no,
fitness, fitness, mindset, dating stuff, masculinity, just everything, anything that I felt would be of help and of interest to guys that would come across my site. That's kind of been my guide for creating content over the past 5 years. And, since that time, I've written 2 books. My first book was Tyrants and Tellers. My second one I just released is called Insta Gods.
How many pages is Insta Gods?
Insta Gods paperback is 732 pages.
Jesus Christ, you're a fucking animal, bro. That takes a lot of that is very, very difficult to do, just straight the fuck up. Let me say what's up to the people in the chat real quick, and then I want to talk more about InstaGods. Pepe, these nuts, what's up? Winston Wolf, what up? Winston Wolf says, I looked over Sonny's work, and he seems to cover everything in GLL fashion. Good-looking loser. Chris is good. He has good resources as well. Vincent Vale, what's up? Tetrahydroscope, what up? Adam, yo, Muhammad, what up? Cody, what up? Ernest, Ernie's up in New York. He says, Sonny and John are the best in this side of the internet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernie. Yeah.
Thank you, Ernie. Christopher Wilson, what up? I hope you're staying out of trouble over there in the Philippines. Ernie says, I'm 40 pages into InstaGod, and so far it's past my expectations. Getting body language mastery, and this book is a cheat code. Thank you, dude. Winston says, damn, he has like 1 million YouTube videos. You do have a lot of YouTube videos as well, dude. Right? How many videos have you put up over there?
Me, I put up it's like maybe 228 or something like that. Yeah, I've done it on and off. Yeah.
Good Lord. So let's give the people a little bit of background information about you. So where were you born?
I was born in Long Island, New York. Well, no. I was born in New York City, but I grew up on Long Island.
Okay, Long Island, New York. And tell me a little bit about this. So are you you play any sports when you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, well, when I was a kid, I played every sport you could imagine.
Did you play for teams or did you just play on your own?
Yeah. I mean, when I was a little kid, I mean, every sport you could imagine: ice hockey, soccer, baseball, basketball, football. And then once I got to high school, I was a three-sport athlete. I was football, winter track, and baseball.
Oh wow! What did you do in winter track?
Winter track, believe it or not, I did the. I would throw the shot put, and I'd also do the sprints. I did really well with both of them. There'd be times where I'd be at meets and I'd win both events, like the shot and the 55.
It's always good. It's always fun to win. I remember I wrestled in high school, so I remember my fastest pin was 34 seconds, and I remember just like there's winning digitally and then there's winning physically, and I'm sorry, but just winning in physical real life, there's nothing like it. There's just
Oh
nothing
yeah,
like
it's
it.
like that. It's like that book. I forget who wrote it. I should know this, but the Winner Effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
What's
like
that?
the Winner Effect. It just it talks about sort of the psychological as well as chemical like changes that take place in the human body when you're it gives both ends of the spectrum when you experience victory and also when there's an absence of victory. And this is why especially for young men especially, this is why playing sports is so important, because you give young men just a taste of those victories. Those little wins add up, and that's why I can go on and on about relating just life and success in general to the gym, because the gym, what is the gym? The daily habit of going to the gym. It's literally you're subjecting yourself to these little mini winner effects on a daily basis.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely. I think it kind of relates to this book that I used to listen to, that I highly recommend. I don't know if have you ever listened to the book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
I read that book. Yes. Very
That
good
book,
book.
that book changed my life. I used to listen to that book when I was a stinking bum in
Yeah.
2014. I was living in Hawaii studying to get the taxi exam, and I would be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning riding the bus to the other side of like the most ghetto area of Hawaii called Waipahu to install fences in that hot Hawaiian sun, making like $14 an hour cash while trying to like make something out of myself. And I just remember like that book just really changed me, because it talked about how just the small incremental daily
Yes.
habits of winning compound over time, and most people, they just don't want to put in the effort to make that small little change, even if it's something as little as cutting 200 calories a day,
Mhm.
or like you mentioned to me, you talked about how to get lean. You said just like every week, just fast 36 hours once
Yeah.
a week, and you can get really lean. And
Yeah.
a lot of people just don't see, because we live in this kind of psychotic culture, this psychotic instant gratification culture, right? And a lot of people just don't value good old fashioned hard work. And I think that that book really just shows you it's never been easier to succeed in today's day and age. It's never been fucking easier. You could literally print money if you have enough internet savvy intelligence and enough digital marketing skills. You could literally become like the Fed and print your own money. But everybody is just, they want that instant fix. They want that emotional instant high, and that's a recipe for failure. I mean, how long did it take you to get to the physical shape that you're in right now? When did you think, like, when did you really start, and when did you feel like, okay, like I have become the physical specimen that I want to become?
Yeah. Well, that's where genetics comes into play. Because if I showed, like, I think I posted on Instagram before, like how I looked when I was 16 before I even touched a weight. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people can't believe it. Like, it was just, it's one of those things that, like it's most people's like after like years of training. That was like my starting point, and then when I actually started lifting summer of 2000 and summer of 2000 summer of 2006.
Mm-hmm.
I put on close to like 30 pounds of muscle in a very short time period. So I always, right off the bat, I knew that this was just something I was, kind of born to do. Um, and again, that early success, that also, that winner effect, that just kept me motivated to keep going. Whereas, sometimes
The
the guys
drug.
don't, they don't, yeah, sometimes guys they might not see the results right away, and that discourages them. And I understand that it can get discouraging, but that wasn't the case with me. But yeah, so getting back to that book, The Compound Effect. I read that beginning of last year, so it was like January of 2018,
Oh
and
wow, okay.
yeah, I
Yeah.
read it was pretty recent. And yeah, like the principles of that, I highly recommend that book. The principles of that have definitely taken shape in my own life. That's like, again, that's how. So you mentioned the fasting. I was right around that time I started fasting, because even like when I was in really good shape, my face would sort of have this like year-round like bloat to it.
Right.
So I started doing the fasting. I started around January 2018, and then you just it's like any avenue of success. It's like, how's it work? You know, it's tough to kind of get a little momentum in the beginning, but you keep consciously doing it, whatever that habit is. You just keep doing it, and then eventually it just becomes normalized. And you keep your head down. You just keep doing it, and eventually, you know, you look up and take a note of the landscape, and it's 6 months later, and you're completely changed. It's like that both with habits as well as, I guess you can call them anti-habits if you want to stop something. So I got a friend who, you know, struggling to stop smoking, and I kind of explained this to him, but you know, he's kind of going through the smoker's journey now. I told him, it's just like, dude, it's one of those things. You stop doing it, and you just keep yourself busy, and before you know it, 6 months later, you know, life's going to be drastically different for you.
Yeah, and I want to shift gears here real quick because I also believe, you know, you took a little dive into helping guys with their dating lives for a while. So that being said, I really like your philosophy of you attract what you are, and I would just like to talk a little bit about what you believe is going on with the dating culture in the United States, and what is your perception of dating? And then I want to double check. One of the guys in my community is a Filipino guy. He's saying, "Is this guy Filipino? You're half, right?"
Yeah, I'm half Filipino, half Russian. My father's from the Philippines and my mom's Russian. Yeah, I look just like my dad. My dad, he's like, we look just alike, except my dad, you know, he's only like 5'3", but I mean, he's a badass. So I got you know, a lot of the size from my mom's side of the family.
Good shit. Good shit. So let's talk. I want to talk about. Just give me your general philosophy on what a man should do in order to be successful in dating. What do you think? What is your take on this?
Yeah. And believe it or not, you know, I talked about this for years, and it took me up until last fall to actually come up with what I believe is an answer that will probably never change for me. I think if a guy wants to legitimately improve his dating life, chances of success, winning in the dating game is very simple.
Yes.
It entails two things. Number one, image, both real life image, and now because of the social media age, that digital image needs to be accounted for too. So, you know, and we'll get into that. So image and straight up going for it, taking shots. A lot of guys, they don't take enough shots, meaning they're not communicating with enough women on a daily or even weekly basis. You know, I got, you know, there's been former students of mine where talk to them, and 5 months down the road, oh, I don't know, this dating stuff's just not working out. And my first question, all right, how many girls are you talking to, or how many girls have you been talking to over the past 5 months? One, maybe two. That ain't enough. You gotta, again, it is, you know, you hate to use the terminology, but yes, numbers, you know, you got to put in work, you know, talk to women, because that's how you get them in bed. Talk to a lot of women, and it's very much analogous to sales and marketing. You are a product competing in the business of people. Okay, so you want that product to look as good as possible, to be as high value as possible. Well, now you got to go market it. You know, get as many eyeballs in front of your product as possible. Same thing, you know. So that's why, you know, guys, especially that are you know, in their young, single, and in their 20s. Yeah, I mean, they're saying the dating market, you know, it's no longer, you know, 30, 40 years ago where you're going to meet, you know, you're going to meet Susie in high school, and, you know, everything's going to go great, and, you know, that's the only girl, and you'll live happily ever after. The dating world, it's very chaotic now. You know, not only in real life, but in the digital realm as well. So I tell guys, yeah, if you're young and single, yeah, you want as many kind of lines out there. You want to be going out multiple nights a week, and yeah, you want to be doing, you know, the online stuff, Tinder, Bumble, and whatever other apps are kind of big now.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the biggest problem is some guys, they don't go for it, or they lack a lot of self-awareness in regards to, I always say the big three is what every man needs to be working on from the moment he is 18 years old until death. And it's make money, make muscles, learn game. If you focus on those three tenets of your life from 18 until death, you will live an above average life. You will live the life of kings that kings lived thousands of years ago.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I was actually talking with another former student of mine, and he hit the nail on the head. And this is so when you have an initial interaction with a girl, this is the question that a lot of guys, that get into pickup. They're running from two things. They're running from the looks aspect, but they're also running from this question, this sort of icebreaker question that comes up. So what do you do?
Yeah.
You need to have a good answer to that, and that scares that question. It scares a lot of guys. So that's why, that's where the making money, aspect comes into play. Yeah. You want to have a career, you want to be building businesses. Yeah. Because ultimately you want to be looking good, and you want to have a good answer to that. So, because let's be honest, a lot of guys on the side of the internet, they don't have good job, they don't have money, they don't have good jobs. So they'll come up with these like nebulous answers, or even just flat out lie.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the direction, and that's why I kind of don't like where the dating community is. I'm trying to kind of distance myself from it, because that's kind of the direction that it's going in, where guys are. And actually, that's what I guess pickup kind of always was. Let me figure out, well, what's the best way I could fudge the numbers and give off the illusion of value. Whereas my philosophy has always been a holistic one. Well, why not, instead of trying to come up with different ways to scam and give off the illusion of value, why not just legitimately improve your life so that you legitimately have value that that's clearly visible.
Yep. Otherwise you're going to end up 40 years old dedicating your life to Jesus and having a meltdown on fucking internet. Like Rouge.
That, and I haven't actually even said my thoughts on that. I don't know him personally.
I don't believe it. If he I know the Bible back from the front to end. I was in school to become a pastor in the Pentecostal church. I was actually thrown out of pastor school. Shocker there. And if he was really convicted by the Lord, he would delete all his game-related books. He would delete his website. He would delete all of his stuff related to any type of premarital sexual content if he was sincerely genuine about this conversion. I feel like we are just witnessing a man who has an audience that, very cult-like, which ties in perfectly to your book, Insta God, and that some people will follow these digital avatars no matter where they go. I mean, this is like those guys who start cults and end up having a bunch of the people kill themselves and stuff in the name of, like, some guy said like an asteroid was coming near the Earth and they've got to kill themselves at the perfect time so they can end up on this asteroid and sail off into heaven, and like 30 something people killed themselves because this fucking cult leader talked these people into it. So people will blindly believe this, but that's why I am so transparent with everything that I fucking do, and I just keep it as real as possible with my audience, because I also want to use my audience to keep me accountable, because I don't want to be selling no snake oil or dealing with any of that kind of bullshit. That's why, when people join my body language mastering stuff, like, I literally pour out like hours and hours of my time just to make sure the guys that actually show up to the webinars to make a change in their lives get the change and the value and change that they're seeking, so that they're not led astray, if you will, like these people who are following Rouge. I mean, I don't know. Do you believe that he's found God and this is a sincere thing? I totally don't believe it.
Again, I don't really know him. No, not really. I just, like, my initial
He's a weirdo, right? Come on, look at you. You're like a normal guy. Like, I can sit down, we could watch a football game, we could fucking have a beer, we could eat pizza, talk about some girls, and like we would get along. But like, you look at Rouge, like, he just looks like a fucking weird dude. He looks like a weirdo.
Rouge, he's an example of someone who I believe has spent too much time, and this is a trap that influencers kind of from all backgrounds can get themselves caught in. I call it living for the other side of the screen. So you spend so much time playing expert, okay?
Yeah.
Where you do that for so long, but you fail to, you're not that guy in real life, and you don't have the time getting the success you want in real life. So and this is a lot of dating coaches in particular find themselves in this situation where they're what I call observably socially relevant. Like, let's make this is why my philosophy on image and going for it, I think, is correct, because image, a girl in this day and age, girls are expert at looking a guy up and down and just figuring out what just how he looks, how he dresses, all that, how he carries himself. And you're either in the social media age, you're either socially relevant or you're not. And
right.
Roosh, in my opinion, and just I have a lot of experience. He's to the young, hot, like prime time demographic of like 18. I guess you include like 18, maybe up to like 30, early 30s. To that demographic of girls that are, you got to keep in mind, what is that avatar girl like? What are they about? They're on Instagram. They're Snapchatting. They're listening to Migos. They're going to Coachella.
Yep.
And this actually relates to what I believe the number one mistake guys make when it comes to their dating life. It's a good question. I was asked it on another interview a couple weeks ago. The number one mistake guys make with regard to their dating life is not taking the culture into consideration, which boggles the mind, because it's the culture that determines everything. It plays a huge impact in your success, because it dictates how the girls are going to act, what they're going to be attracted to.
Yeah.
So when you're trying to get dating success, well, first and foremost, you need to define what success is, meaning what kind of girl are you going after.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out, okay, what is in that girl's like line of like cultural like eyesight, like what's on their radar. Okay, how do you fit into that? If you don't fit into that, then it's very much an uphill battle. And that's where, see, guys, me and you have a different understanding, as does anybody else who has an audience. We have an understanding. We're on the other side of the screen. We're on the content producer side of the screen. Whereas, guys watching this and just guys that watch anything, they're on the content consumer side of the screen.
Right.
Well, what we know on this side of the screen is that we know that the audience is pretty much going to believe anything, no questions asked. Right. And there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And, you're a genuine guy and I'm a genuine guy. We don't take that responsibility lightly.
Right.
But there's also another element where guys, so they don't take into consideration that guys fabricate, lie, and don't know what they're talking about. Just because someone's on the other side of the screen, blabbing on saying that, they're an expert on something. This goes like this for all niches. That doesn't mean anything,
Yep.
So I don't know. No matter what, I whatever Roosh got going on, I mean, I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He'll like all people, he'll get what he deserves, whether that's good or bad. But either way, I don't wish any bad on the guy. Hopefully whatever.
No, I don't wish any bad. I have such social, I've such high social acuity that I I could just see clear as day that this guy's a weirdo, and it just blows my mind how many people just believe him at face value, and it just it's just it's mind-boggling, to be honest with you, for me as a relatively young in the creator space, as a content creator myself, because call me crazy, I actually believe in telling the truth and giving real life experience and doing clean business. But apparently, I'm the minority in that fucking area.
Well, and this relates to a larger thing, and this is especially relevant to this audience. I talk about this. This is chapter 46 in Insta Gods. It's called the Church of Insta Gods. So basically,
let's dive into Insta God. Let's talk about what this is.
Yeah. So what I was going to say was, and we actually talked about this off air last time. This side of the internet, especially, is susceptible for being duped And especially prone to um, believing things at face value. And the reason for that is because we live in a time where faith, God is like dead. Faith is dead. We live in a faithless time. There's no faith in a higher power. There's no faith. There's no heroes. There's no hero. You know, back in the day, you know, we have all these like heroic figures to look up to. You know, even, you know, back in, you know, like the 80s, you know, it was the time of the action star. We don't have heroes now, you know. And most importantly, men, we don't have faith in ourselves as a generation. Because of this, we have this sort of spiritual void in us, this generation.
Yeah.
Now that void doesn't just go away.
Right.
Subconsciously, we're going to want to fill it up with something. And what this generation does, they do fill it up with something. They fill it up with whoever or whatever is on the other side of the screen, whatever they're looking at on Instagram or YouTube or whatever platform that they flock to. So, you know, when you say guys like Roosh, you know, it's almost like a cult following. Yeah, I mean it is, because again, you got to see it's the faithless generation, and they want to fill that spiritual gap with something. So they're gonna latch on to something, and this relates to the larger issue. Well, what happens when you challenge someone's faith in something? You know, and especially a social media individual. What happens when you say, "Oh, this person, they're not legit"? You can literally. You want to know when I learned this? Actually, you know the pickup artist Justin Wayne.
Yeah, Garrett, that guy's such a piece of shit.
Yeah, so like when Vice did that like expose on him, this was an awakening moment for me. And they literally catch him on camera saying like, "Hey, listen, you don't do this, I'm not going to pay you." All right, so they pretty much he kind of disappeared after that. Well, look in the comment section of the guys talking about that, and look at the comment section of, I guess, his response video. The majority of the guys, what are they doing? They're coping. They're saying, "Oh man, they just took it out of context." They're coming up with all these like other things to kind of rationalize what happened. Anything to hide from the truth. The truth being that he's probably paying these bitches, you know, from wherever.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to see that. So what do? They lash out. Because why? Because he's been digitally deified in the minds of these faithless boys, and now that faith has been challenged, so they got to lash out. Now, don't get me wrong, and actually I talk about this in the propaganda chapter, you know, for the most part, this is why internet exposés, a lot of times they don't really do anything. Yeah, you know, at the moment, they happen. You know, the individual who gets exposed has a bit of a PR crisis on their hands, and they'll lose a small minority of their audience, because it's just people that think the truth for what it is. Oh, they were full of shit this whole time. Fuck this, and then they leave. But the majority of their audience, they will stick around. They'll rationalize, and they'll stick around, and it'll be business as usual. Perfect example of this. Look at guys like Brad Castleberry and the guys who, the fake strongman of Instagram. There's been stories on this. The people, they literally use fake weights, fake plastic weights, to make it look like they're lifting more weight. And doing
I could not even, when you told me that shit off air, I could not even believe that people were lifting fake weights.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I mean, he could still probably bench, you know, 400 or 500 pounds because he's a big, strong dude, but he's not benching 800 pounds. But, you know, those have also been like awakening experiences for me. And then also fitness models who use Photoshop, girls Photoshop in their asses, guys Photoshop in the waists in. Like literally, like their whole digital image is a fraud. And none of them have ever gotten decimated. Brad Castleberry, he's still got millions of followers that tune in to every one of his posts on Instagram. Same thing with Devin Physique. Same thing with Paige Hathaway. These are people that have gotten exposed for, you know, faking what it is that they are selling. Doesn't do anything, you know?
Yeah, it blows my mind. And that, you know, that's what I say. Anybody who decides that they want to be an online figure or an online entity, you know, the quickest thing you can do to fuck yourself over is to be insincere. But if you are transparent, honest, and do good, clean business across the board, it will start off slower, but getting there, in regards to like the longevity of your business, you will destroy all competition. You will absolutely destroy all competition.
Yeah.
And you got a link to your book. People are asking for your book in the chat. If you could just send that into the chat. I
Yeah.
don't have a link there, but a couple of
Okay.
guys seem to be interested.
Okay.
I think that's very interesting when you talk about, God is kind of been dead in regards to Christianity in the West, because there seems to have been like this movement of secularism, and a lot of people kind of correlate this to like Sodom and Gomorrah. I've been
Yeah.
seeing a lot of earthquakes happening in California, and
Yes.
a lot of this fires and earthquakes happening in California. And I hope all my viewers in California are okay. But part of me is like wanting God to be real, because I see all of this like blatant evil shit going on coming out of like these cancer centers, like California, New York, New York, where they have that like 9-year-old boy who dresses as a girl, Desmond or whatever. I think he's like 9 or 11. Like the kid hasn't even hit puberty, and he's already being exploited in gay clubs and these drag burlesque stuff. And then you have YouTube promoting all these transgender people, like actively pushing them in the algorithm. And you know, I'm not sure what the agenda is, but it just seems that anything that seems to be traditionally based, like man, woman getting together, staying married, having a good relationship, building a family, like it seems to be that there's like a silent war against that. And um one of the backbone things that used to make that kind of thing was Christianity. It was like,
Mhm.
find a wife, find a good woman, have a family, raise godly children. If you follow the advice in the Bible, you can actually, it tells you to, a very, very good plan for life for a person that doesn't have a plan in life. It's like, don't overeat, don't overdrink, don't lust after your neighbor's wife. You save money. They say a father or a mother, parents who don't leave an inheritance to their children are an absolute disgrace. They say live a life of modesty, intelligence, take care of your body. The body's the temple. And then there seems to be this active war against Christianity, because Islam, in my opinion, seems to be thriving. And
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know, like those dudes, like I know you watch a little bit of UFC here and there, Khabib Nurmagomedov, like
Absolutely. Yeah.
those dudes from Dagestan, like if you fucking make a joke about Allah or something like that, those dudes are ready to fucking whoop your ass with the drop of a hat. Whereas Christians, like they seem to just roll over and take it, and it's like, where have all the badass Christians gone? Where has because people like to say that America is not a nation based on Christian values, but 100% America was built and founded on Christian values. The values of Christianity got America to where it is today. And now that we seem to forsake it, it all started with that one. I believe she was a single mom who was like, she was just like didn't want public prayer in schools anymore. And they started, slowly but surely stripping the culture of God. And now there just seems to be like this vapid, empty hole in a lot of people. Like, Brad Pitt says in Fight Club, he says like, we have no great cause, we have no
Yeah.
great war. Our great war is a spiritual war, and our Great Depression is our lives. And I
Yeah.
think it is something that a lot of people don't really think about, and they're not really talking about it. But it is certainly a silent sadness that a lot of people carry with them, because what I'm realizing now is I've started to make a little bit more money in my life, and things have really taken off as I decided to go full time with body language mastery and interview with the man and Rule Zero and modernlifedating.com plus Bitcoin and everything. I'm realizing that, you know, having really good friendships and really good relationships, really, after you get your finances handled, you don't have to worry about that. The second best thing is just having good family, good
Yeah.
friends, and like, good woman in your life. I really believe that those are some things that are really overlooked in this kind of consumer culture where everybody's like, oh, you just need to buy. You need to flex. You need to buy the Gucci fucking sandals and shit like that. So that's like my kind of perspective on things. I just personally teach guys dating because I see a lot of guys make a lot of bad decisions with dating, and that I don't want these men to fuck their lives up just to get a morsel of sex or a morsel of attention from a woman when there really is an abundance of women out there. I teach them to kind of how to get this part of their life handled so that they can actively have power to choose and embrace the kind of lifestyle that they want to live. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I'm just here to give you the keys so you have the freedom to live the life on your personal choosing.
Yeah, those are all great points. And I guess this relates to it's not so much a theory. I mean, it is what's going on.
Yeah.
So after this war, this sort of invisible war, it's taken place on many fronts, and this has taken place. So World War II was sort of like the big, the last like big war, the one that kind of scared everybody. You know, supposedly we dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and that ushered in like a new element of fear. So what happened? So the U.S. Emerges kind of victorious, and there's this economic boom, the baby boomer generation. But what happens during this time? And this is what a lot of people don't, they haven't really looked into. The Cold War was pretty much a distraction. There was never going to be a war between Russia and the U.S. Because what happened? We spent so much time fixated on this war that was dominating the headlines. You got kids doing the duck and cover drills, and it was everywhere in the media. But that was the distraction. The real war started taking place on the human mind.
Yes.
Started taking place, culturally. They started pumping out propaganda, glorifying, or should I say, presenting an option that, hey, you know what, the traditional family, it's not the only way. You can be the young, single, professional, successful woman, Mary Tyler Moore. You don't need a man, Mary Tyler Moore. You can have the broken up family unit, Brady Bunch. And this process, it's also taken place in music. It's transpired over the past few decades. That's how cultural change works. It takes place. It's incremental. It's like the sink dripping a thing of water over time, slowly but surely.
Compound effect.
Yes, exactly. That's how cultural change happens. And the people, pulling the strings behind the scenes. That's how they designed it. And that's where we find ourselves today, where it's a far different place now. There is a silent sadness, spiritual decimation. And you need to, in order to kind of rise above it, it does entail, like you said, finding joy in the little things in life, the few close people that you're close with, girlfriend, small group of friends, keeping yourself healthy and happy, making money to fund the lifestyle that you want. Those are the things that are important. So getting involved with, just all the distractions nowadays, it's all one big distraction, and that's, I talk about it, in the book. I advise people, never lose sight of, because there's two worlds competing for our consciousness in this day and age. You got the real world, and then the online, the digital realm. Never lose sight of the real world, because you can have all the, you can have, 50, 60,000 followers. You can have 100,000 YouTube subscribers, but, and that might give you a little bit of happiness. But if real life isn't making you happy, you're going to feel sad.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And it's sobering too. I think I will say this in somewhat of a counterpoint. I think that if you don't have, because some people just do not have access to that real life happiness, that real life community, if you will, because it's kind of hard to find people like us. I do think a digital community can help supplement your need for belonging and companionship for a time being until you actually cultivate that in real life. But I mean, a life without real life connections, real life, you know, real life, communication and just that human touch, that's another thing I noticed in the States too. It's like, you know, one thing that I noticed that people think a lot in the States, which is really, really foreign to me. I've lived in Japan now for 4 years, and I've been off and on inside the United States since 2012. And you know, I one of the most rewarding jobs ever is I'm out now, so I could talk about it. But I used to teach English for Sesame Street out here, and I would teach to children, and it's so rewarding to teach kids. And like when you hang out with kids really do have it all figured out. Like they're
Yeah.
just so pure to their instincts, like if you ever been with kids, that kids and women are very similar. They're just a roller coaster of emotions, right? If a kid feels like shit, he's like, fuck this, I'm gonna cry right now, this shit sucks. You let him cry, he cries himself out for like 5 minutes, then he comes back, I'm like, you done? He's like, yeah, we go to play. Okay. And then you let them move on with their life. But they are, they need human connection. The kids like to hug you. They like to take care of you as a teacher. And they sometimes they bring you candy. They like, hey, I made you this origami, stuff like that. And I think as we get older, especially in like the United States, like especially like Me Too and stuff, all this stuff really is just making people afraid of creating human connections. And then what's the purpose of being life if you're being alive and living life if you don't have human connection? Like what are you just gonna stay in your room and have sex with a fucking sex doll and talk to this bitch like you're fucking psychopath all day? Like, no, you can't. And that's why I tell guys, you are desiring that human connection. Okay. You are desiring that connection with other people, other men, other women, whatever, men for camaraderie, women for romantic interest. Um, you're not alone with that. And don't be afraid to act on that. Because I think a lot of people are just living in fear, thinking like the government's going to come after them or the police are going to arrest them or they're going to automatically get taken away in divorce court. I don't advise guys getting married because it's just a bad, like I say, go have the spiritual marriage and all that shit. But don't bring the government at all. Don't bring the government into it at all because I just don't think that it is a good deal to give anybody leverage over you to the point that they can financially enslave you. And then Sonny, thank you. We had another Sonny watching. Sonny, thank you for the $70 donation through the super chat, sir. Appreciate you very much. Great having you over here in Tokyo. And I want you to join in the webinars after if you can, sir. Tell me a little bit more about INSTAGODS. So why did you write it? What was your, for a man to sit down and you went on a boat to write this, right? Didn't you go out in the middle of the ocean or some shit?
No.
What was that on you? I thought you like went out to a boat or something and you wrote, like you went into isolation to write this thing. This is some gangster shit you did.
No, this one, I did that a little bit for the first book of Pirates and Tellers. This one, I mean, it's a process that took place, over the past year and a half. As far as the idea for it, I've been thinking about it for a couple of years now. Because here's the thing, I paid attention to, Instagram, and I've seen how it's sort of just grown in prominence in our culture, and it's become more of a governing force, an invisible hand pulling the strings in every instance of like human social interaction. I noticed this. It wasn't as apparent when it first became mainstream, 2012, 2013, but it's steadily grown in prominence over time. So now it's the point where, again, we're at a time where what world is winning out on our consciousness? Is it real life or is it the digital realm?
Yeah.
I've started, in recent times, I've seen a far more influx of stories in the news where you're seeing social media, play a hand in people's demise. I noticed this a couple years ago, a couple girls, they got in a car accident Why? Because they put the Snapchat filter on their phone because they wanted to hit 100 because I guess some sort of special filter comes up. Well, what happened? They paid attention to that digital reality and disregarded real life, and they killed the guy.
Wait, a fucking special filter comes up if you go 100 miles an hour?
I don't know. I think Snapchat, they may have disabled it, but in 2016 or 2015 when this happened, yeah, there was a filter, and there was a big court case, and Snapchat, they ultimately, the court obviously, they said Snapchat wasn't, they had no liability in it.
Yeah,
but there's other things like you'll see, even the past couple weeks, you're seeing more stories where famous YouTubers plunge to their death, because they're they're trying to film content or get a picture over a cliff, so they disregard reality because they want to rise above the masses in in the digital reality.
Yeah.
And what happens? Real life wins out, and they fall to their death. There's a study done by some university in India, and they found out that since 2011, there have been, I believe, 259 selfie-related deaths. And if you look at this list, it's like the dumbest shit ever. Like, there's a couple guys that were mauled to death by bears. Why? Well, because they're fixated on the digital reality. They think that bear is going to be like a person and just smile for the camera when they're taking the selfie.
Good
when in
Lord.
reality, that bear is going to act like a bear and tear your face off.
Animals don't fucking play, man. You ever been around, like, there's a park up in here in Japan called Arashiyama, and you can go on a mountain and there are wild monkeys. You ever fuck around with a monkey in real life?
No.
Monkeys don't play, dude. Like, there's signs like, do not make eye contact with the monkeys.
Oh yeah, like I've seen like if you ever look at like chimp victims, those chimpanzees, oh my god, those things have freaking torn people to pieces.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, people don't get wild animals, that turkeys, wild turkeys, you don't want to fuck with wild turkeys, but people think, oh, the turkeys, Thanksgiving, gobble gobble. No, those things have really sharp claws and they could tear you to pieces. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Sonny in the chat says human brain software will merge with digital software. This is not science fiction anymore. This is a process. I totally believe we're heading towards like a Matrix type reality. As crazy as it may sound, we are getting. And Google has already. Google has a fucking patent on a contact lens that you can just put on. And then, who knows? Once you start giving these, I mean, these people already trust like controlling algorithms on our digital devices. What happens when you let them in here? I mean, will they be able to control you? Yeah, I'm gonna be that old man. I'm gonna be like 60 years old. Like I ain't plugging myself into that shit. I'll be prepping in my house, filling it with rations and ammo, and just be that old man, just not giving in.
Yeah, I mean, well, people need to realize, you mentioned like the Matrix, all these, what television programming is, what movies are. It's not fiction. A lot of times, what these do, they're normalizing the idea in the public's mind, so that it's not that crazy when it comes time for them to wind it out. One of the things I quoted in the book was an episode of Black Mirror where it's this like alternate reality where social media and the numbers, literally discussed in the chapter called Murder by Numbers, the numbers determine everything. Determines, the perks you get, because I believe the character in that she wanted to buy like a new house. Well, her rating, she needed to be like a 4.8. She was only at a 4.6. The numbers determine everything. And that's what that show talks about. And eventually, we're going to get to a point. China, I talk about this in the book too. China, they're going to roll out that social credit system. They already kind of beta tested it. I think something like 17 million people last year couldn't ride the train because they didn't have enough social credit.
Yeah.
So we're definitely heading in that direction. We're not there yet. We're at a point now where it's not so much the government or the algorithms like controlling everything. We're kind of weaponized against one another, and it's subtly. And this is, again, discussed in the Murder by Numbers chapter. Because especially in dating, so like if a girl, if you meet a girl and she really likes you, and you really like her, well, if she's socially relevant, she sees that you have like 43 followers on Instagram. Well, she's going to subconsciously weed you out because you're going to think you're a loser.
Yeah.
So it's little subtle things like that we're kind of, and that's what, again, we think, or our society thinks that it's going to be some government or some force that is going to, impede on our own, like is going to take away our freedoms or shackle us in chains. No, it's not that. Number one, it's going to be a war on the mind. Number two, we're going to be weaponized against each other.
Yeah. I don't have such a draconian outlook on the future because I read a lot of I have my background in psychology, and I have my camera's kind of out of focus. There we go. You can't stop truth. You see what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein. They're trying to keep it under they're trying to keep it under the hush hush right now. But you see what's going on with him.
Oh yeah, that's rampant in like the elite circles.
Oh yeah, no, I know it is, and it's becoming more and more common knowledge. That being said, I do see the social credit score system happening in China, but I think you're gonna have to start killing people for this to work, for them to be enslaved. And I just don't think it's going to work. I think more and more people are waking up to the bullshit. I remember when I'm 33 now. I remember when I was 24, my friend was very woke at the time, and his name was Jeff. I'll never forget this guy. Great guy. He's a drummer, good man, good, awesome guy, really good at heart, like fucking one of the greatest guys I've known. And he told me, and I thought he was crazy when he told me this. He's like, you need to wake up. He's like, everything you see on the news is a fucking lie. He's like, 90% of the stuff that you see on the news is an absolute lie. It is not real. It is all fabricated. And I was like, okay, like Jeff's crazy. I was literally thinking that at the time. I was just like, Jeff's crazy. But I think more and more people are waking up. And I think that's why these big tech companies are fighting so hard to censor people as well. And I think that we're in a shift right now. I also fuck around with Bitcoin. And if you do your depth, you do your knowledge about what's going on with the Fed and then what's going on with cryptocurrency, and you see how cryptocurrency cryptocurrency gives people a lot of freedom. It is a deflationary asset. And if you know your money history, you know that every single dollar that is being coming out of the Fed is like they're just printing money, and they are creating a fucking financial bubble that is, when it pops, it's not going to be pretty. So I think a lot of people are waking up on multiple fronts. In regards to social media and stuff, I think you're right that girls, like if some guys don't have a lot of social media following, like they'll kind of look down on you like that. But at the same time, I think the type of girl that makes that type of decision is a fucking idiot, and that girl's not what would you designate as a keeper. I think a girl that would care more about a guy who can provide, who actually comes home and loves her and takes care of her and provides for her old school style. I think smarter women, and I use that term very loosely because a lot of chicks are making bad decisions these days, especially in the States. And that's why they're ended up 40 and alone, crying on the BBC and saying like, I regret feminism, I regret all this shit, because they bought the lie. They bought that Sex in the City lie.
Sex in the City programming. Yep.
Yes, they bought that bullshit. So I think that some of these chicks who do believe this shit, they're gonna dead and alone. And honestly, I'm cold with it. I'm just like, hey, gene pool is cleansed. But I mean, I think the ones that have a good sense, they will stick with their man regardless how many fucking followers he has, whatever. As long as he could do his job as a man, provide and take care of her, because it's just like guys who are searching for shortcuts, girls who are just jumping from dick to dick. That's not a good plan for women down the road. It's not a good strategy. You got to learn to stay with the one you're with and love that one. Otherwise, I mean, you're gambling with your time as a woman. And as you get older, girls know your value, it ain't going up. Not like men. As we get older, Let me tell you something. I'm living the fucking dream at 33. I am fucking loving life. Girls that are when my mom turned 30, I remember watching her cry. And she was just like, I'm 30 now. It's over. Fuck, So it's a big difference for us in regards to men and women. But I think what your book definitely highlights, what the average normie girl is thinking. Definitely for sure that this digital clout is like, I don't even give a fuck if it wasn't for me running a business off of social media. I wouldn't have any of this fucking social media shit. I would just be playing games and eating pizza, lifting weights, and strangling dudes in the gym. Other than that, I don't know. I couldn't go be fucked about take a picture of my food and put it on the internet and all that. But tell me this. Let's wrap it up here. Are there any things that you would like to mention in closing? Any things in InstaGods you want to make known, or anything else?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you very much for having me on. This is a great conversation. We covered a lot of different things. My book, Insta Gods. It's called Insta Gods: How to Decode the Secret Psychology of Social Media. And what this book is, it is a massive resource. It basically elaborates on everything and every which way you can imagine that social media has impacted human civilization. Just everything you can imagine. There's a lot of content, a lot of different chapters on dating and relationships in the social media age. A lot of actionable advice regarding that as well. And just what it's done to the culture, where we may be going. I get into that a little bit, but it's a very complete work, and anybody that wants to learn about humanity, the most advanced research on that, and understanding human programmable patterns of behavior in 2019 and beyond. This book is a must read. I firmly believe that.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. You are a good man. You're a real one. I appreciate you helping me with the body language mastery promotions we did on your network. One of your guys got in, and I'm taking care of him. Guys, go and check out Sonny. I vet people pretty hard, and I'm pretty. You guys know I'm very vocal about who I feel is real and who I feel is a piece of shit. Sonny's a real one. You can trust this guy. I think that he's doing good work. I think that it takes a lot of balls to sit down and say the stuff that's not popular. I mean, we could easily sit here and be like, hey, just say these magic words and in 5 minutes she'll be in love with you, et cetera, et cetera. Sitting here lying to you is it's easy, but it's dirty work, and I'm just not a piece of shit, and neither is Sonny. So if you need advice about fitness, follow him on Instagram as well. It's also Strength by Sonny.
Yes.
And we have our interactions on Twitter. Follow him on there, Strength by Sonny. Go to strengthbysonny.com. Anything you'd like to say in closing, my friend?
No, that was it. Again, thank you very much for having me on, and for you guys tuning in. Thank you to you guys as well. The book, again, I put the link in the description. It's available on Amazon. And just to offer you guys some encouragement, wherever you're at in your journey, whatever that journey may be, just stick with it, show up every day, and put in the work, and have faith that you'll get there, and you will.
You absolutely will. And speaking of it, we're going to take a little bit of a break here, and then guys in Body Language Mastery, quarter 1 and quarter 2, you guys are both invited to the webinars. The email is going out. Sonny, if you want to join the webinar, you're more than welcome to join. I know you might be busy, but if you want to, you're more than welcome to join. So guys, keep an eye on your emails. The webinar is coming out tonight. Join in, and we will continue on your training program. Until then, we'll see you tomorrow on Free Consultation Friday for episode 103 of Interviewing the Man. I will be back in the Matrix. I'll have my little fancy green screen fired up here again. And it's going to be a good one. Until then, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.
Take care.